Well, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Bronwyn Nichols Lodato, and I am a board member of the Olmsted Network. Like my colleague Spencer earlier, I also wear multiple hats. I serve as the president of the Midway Plaisance Advisory Council in Chicago, Illinois, the city and a garden. Brian can talk about that later. And I'm also chair of the board. I'm honored to be chair of the board of Friends of the Parks, which is the subject of the presentation today. And it's my distinct pleasure to introduce our next session, A New Vision for Friends of the Parks. So this afternoon, we're going to take a closer look at one of our longtime partners with the Olmsted Network, Friends of the Parks. Now celebrating its 50th anniversary, the organization will reflect on its legacy and share a forward-looking vision for the years ahead. This session will explore the organization's current structure, its top priorities, new opportunities, and what's on the horizon for 2025 and beyond. Our speaker is Brian Gladstein, Executive Director of Friends of the Parks. Brian brings over 30 years of experience in organizing for justice and equity. His work has spanned affordable housing, immigration, transportation, environmental justice, and democracy reform. He holds degrees in urban planning and policy from the University of Illinois and public affairs and environmental science from Indiana University. We'll save the last 10 minutes of the time slotted for this presentation for audience Q&A. So for now, please join me in welcoming Brian Gladstein.
Thanks, Bronwyn. Do we all just want to go to dinner? Like, is this not the best spot to be in? Everyone's stretched? Everyone's ready? Okay. Gotta make my name not know what it is. So, as Bronwyn said, I'm Brian Gladstein. I became the executive director of Friends of the Parks in March. It seems to have met like 5 or 6 of you all started in the last like 5 or 6 months. So it's really fun to see people who've just started and people who've been doing this for 30, 40 years. And so some of the work I'm going to talk about, a lot of it predated me, but a lot of what we're thinking about on the future is definitely part of the vision that we're looking towards today. So let me just talk a little bit, give a background about Friends of the Parks. As Bronwyn said, we were started in 1975. We are an independent nonprofit organization that does primarily advocacy and education. So we don't manage any properties. There were times when the organization has done that, but currently we do not. Our work is to create the well-being and the strength of an equitable park system in Chicago. And we look at all 600 plus parks that exist in the city currently. And there it is, City in a Garden. So the vision of our founders was to really create this city in a garden where everyone kind of benefits from quality, safe, and accessible parks. And so we work really hard to ensure that legacy and think about the next generation of parks and what that looks like for the city of Chicago. Oh, good point. I got 2 things going on. They're not connected. That's why. There, read fast. Okay. Some of our achievements. So some of the work that the organization has done historically. There was a proposal in 1978 to shut down the South Shore Cultural Club in the city of Chicago, a very iconic building in the community, the southeast side of Chicago, that continually goes up against not being under-resourced, which I will talk about later. And Friends of the Parks work to organize and to save that property. We also did some work to make sure that the Garfield Park Conservatory, if you know Chicago on the west side, that there was, the Friends of Parks worked really hard to create and ensure the existence of that with a $1.5 million grant from the New York-based Lila Wallace Reader's Digest Fund. In 2016, something that many people may have heard of, at least locally, let alone nationally, was that George Lucas proposed to put his museum on our lakefront that is protected land, and we sued Lucas to do that, and so he now is creating that site in Los Angeles. And most recently, which I'll talk about more, is we were able to with community organizations, sue and stop a confined disposal facility, a landfill on the southeast side of Chicago. So those are just some of the things we've done over the years. Our impact and the way we think about our work is community driven. So there's a lot of conversation about community involvement, community engagement, at what level does that happen? We think that happens at every level. And we really want to have the voices of the people that are in our parks to come out to help preserve, to do programming, and think about how to expand the footprint of parks throughout Chicago. Thinking about equity. And so often in Chicago, parks historically downtown and on the north side, which is more affluent, get the resources where the south side and the west side do not. And so ensuring that there's equity through the whole system. We do education, we do an Earth Day cleanup every year. We were at 150 parks this last April. We do an education program on the lake, and we also support our PAC leaders, park advisory councils. So I was talking with someone earlier about Friends of the Parks being like a very specific park. And so in Chicago, there are a few of those. Primarily, they're neighborhood park advisory councils of volunteers that work really hard to support their parks. And we have some ideas about how to strengthen them. And then really thinking about the quality of life and how we make it so that parks not only are a place of landscapes that thrive, but are a place where people can flourish. I did it again. Caught up? Okay. So the branches of our work, I kind of talked about, I'll go this quickly, but advocacy and policy is kind of the lead work we do. We do stewardship, we do education, we think about, we do planning in very specific parks, and we work on protection. And so we think about our work, and this is a more recent kind of development of how we think about our work and frame our work, both to the general public, but also for ourselves, into these 5 buckets. So one is access and equity, one is community involvement, lakefront protection, funding and infrastructure improvements, housing, safety, and community building. So our stewardship events is the Earth Day event that I talked about. We've been doing that for 40 years, and we do it with the Chicago Park District. We have a history of, at times, being friends with the Park District, and sometimes more like frenemies of the Chicago Park District. But this is a program where we continue to be in good partnership with the Park District and be able to do it every April. Park Heroes, every year we give out awards. This last year we gave out 12 awards to organizations, to PACs, to individuals, and to Park District employees. And we did that event every summer. Our biggest youth education program is our Nature Along the Lake program, where on the north side and on the south side, and 2 different beaches. So Chicago, the north side is Montrose Beach. On the south side, it is Rainbow Beach, where we bring out, last year we brought out about 2,000 students from the Chicago school system to learn about the environment, learn about environmental stewardship. Sometimes they do some fishing, especially on the north side in the spring. And for some of the teachers have shared with us that And these are the first time that the kids have gone to the lake. And so they really appreciate this program, which is heartening to say we're doing the right thing. On the other hand, it's really sad because the lakefront is such a great asset and the park system is so great. So we would like to see more of that. Thank you. This has been talked about a little bit today, so I'll go through this quickly. This could be a whole presentation on the Homestead connection. One of our co-founders, Vicki Rainey, who authored a book on Homestead in Chicago. A very easy read, but a great read. And she is somebody who still is supportive of us and our work 50 years later. One of the first projects for Chicago was Riverside, where Olmsted was commissioned to work on the whole city plan, including the green space. And so Riverside, Illinois is a place with a real connection to Olmsted. And then there's the South Park. That was a vision. He left Riverside to go do the work in South Park until you could see the map. No, you can't. You could. That button. You can see the map here. And now today, what we're talking about is Jackson Park, which is the picture on your left, Washington Park in the middle, and the Midway that's on the right side. Current pressures. I'm not going to talk about the Obama. Now it's called the Presidential Center, which is a whole other issue that's called the center. Because it could be a whole presentation about what is happening right in Jackson Park with the development of the Obama Center. Ron has been working a lot on this and has a lot of information that she can share, as well as myself. So after this presentation or dinner or tomorrow, if you want to know more about what's going on with Obama, library, see, I still say library, center, we'd be happy to share. But it is a current pressure and it is a major concern about what's happening in Jackson Park. There's been a proposal for a while to also create a PGA golf course to connect a couple golf courses that exist already, which would be very problematic. And on the picture on the right, kind of in the corner on the east side, close to the lake, that's where the South Shore Cultural Center is. And there's some native plants and there's a preserve that would all go away if they built this golf course. And so there is fear that once the Obama Center is set up, that then Obama and Tiger Woods will put their efforts to raising money to create this and completely change what the South Side looks like in Chicago. And so those are two things that we are observing and watching for. So then, when you think about, that's the work that we do currently as an advocacy and education organization, and we're really thinking about, well, what does the future now look like for Chicago, and to be a true advocate for everyone in the city. And so we have created a Branch Out and Grow campaign to celebrate our 50th year. And really, it's about preserving the legacy of the organization and like how do you keep an organization that's been around for so long staying fresh, and really adhering to that legacy, and also looking to the future. And so that was this notion of kind of framing a Branch Out and Grow campaign where we can branch out and do more on more in the 77 different communities in the city of Chicago. So we have 4 goals to the campaign. One is that in next April, we are planning to develop a comprehensive platform and a report for the future of the city parks in Chicago. So in there, we're bringing community organizations together. It was interesting to talk this morning about community involvement and community engagement, because that is the process that we're about to embark on. We're going to do a citywide survey that's going to come out next month with Loyola University on the north side of Chicago. We are going to be holding a half-day event with organizations across the city on those 5 buckets that I talked about. So leaders from those organizations coming together to come up with a vision. Then we're going to host town hall meetings for the general public on the north, south, and west side, and then do a virtual one as well to get input about what's happening in the parks, and really try to get as many people from park advisory councils and community organizations and individuals who care about the parks to really talk about where's the park district doing well, where are their challenges, where's stuff with the U.S. Corps of Engineers, where the state opportunities exist and don't exist. We're going to evaluate our current park system. Like I said, we're going to bring those leaders together, and we're going to resource the organization for the next 50 years. Do it again. So in doing that, we've done a variety of things. So these slides are actually part of a presentation that I also have given for fundraising purposes. Thought it would be just helpful to kind of show how we're talking about it and how we're connecting the work. Fundraising is on top of a lot of people's minds. And so we decided to do a variety of events. Next week we have a cultivation event with our major donors. We're bringing about 70 people together with a keynote speaker to talk about supporting the organization. We're doing a grassroots winter social in December, and then we're doing a gala at the Lincoln Park Zoo in May of next year. And so those are the kind of the events that we're doing to fundraise for the organization. We're hoping to raise $500,000. So we are an organization that really punches above our weight. People in Chicago, so I've worked in Chicago for 30 plus years. In my small bubbles, people don't know who we are, whatever organization I've worked for. Friends of the Parks is an organization that most people know about and either love or hate. A lot of it recently is because of the George Lucas fight. And that's a real opportunity to think about the organization and the power that we have. But the organization, we are a 4-person staff. We have a budget of $500,000. When I have talked to people at the Park District, I've talked to the media, I've talked to others, when this kind of comes up, people imagine that we are a $5-6 million organization. You sued Lucas. We were prepared to sue the Bears. We were involved with the stuff with the Obama Library. We just stopped a landfill on the southeast side of Chicago. This is where U.S. Steel was, where there were a lot of these paint companies, there's all these brownfields. And we sued the U.S. Corps of Engineers. There was already 100 million tons of toxic waste that was taken from Calumet River before it goes to Lake Michigan, put onto the site. And they said once it was full, they were going to close it. It's now full. And the Corps came back to us and said, well, maybe we'll double the size of the landfill, and we can build vertically and put another 100 million tons into this neighborhood that's primarily African American and Latino, that always runs the toxic waste for the city of Chicago. And so we sued, and about 6 months ago, the Corps has stepped back the plan. And actually, we're going to be coming out with a press conference with the mayor next month, October, November, next month, to officially announce that they're closing the site, and it'll be turned into a lakefront park for the city of Chicago. And so that's all work that we do with this 4-person staff and a 10-person board led by Bronwyn. 13, because last time we just had 3 new board members. So we're growing. And so raising $500,000 is a meaningful thing for our organization. And I see no reason why we shouldn't be a $3-4 million organization. And that is my hope, and that is our vision. And again, this is, when I present, we talk about different ways for people to be connected and to support the work of the organization. And try to do that as quickly as I could, so we can get some time for questions and then get to dinner. Is there a microphone? Or?
Anyone have a question? How are you doing it on $500,000?
We are 41% the goal. That was last night. So we have raised about $208,000.
But how do you do all that you do? I mean, taking the kids to the lake, and I mean, you do a lot, the full day of, how do you do that for $500,000? You have to pay your staff.
That's true. You pay my staff. We received $50,000 for that program from the state. And some foundation money that is general operating that we take for that. But in general, I think our staff works really hard, and we have volunteers that support the organization. But it is a challenge to run the work that we do. We used to do more. We used to do a Park Advisory Council conference every year, and I want to bring back a PAC membership program. I've been talking with our new superintendent about how do we get more authority to PACs, because some PACs don't connect with, some have really good access to their park, and some don't. There's no authority there. And what would it look like if the PACs were involved in evaluating the supervisor, the park supervisor, or like local school councils hiring and firing their park staff, but finding ways for them to really connect, and then having those PACs be members of the organization for financial reasons. We also have really amazing museums and and other entities that are in our parks. So we have a zoo in a park. We have Museum of Science and Industry is adjacent to a park. We have our Shed Aquarium that's in a park. We have cultural institutions like the Mexican Fine Arts Museum that's in a park. And so really thinking on a network of those folks that kind of come together through Friends of the Park. So I think there's a lot of opportunities for us to kind of think about ways to do this work. And then we meet with the park district once a month and talk about all the issues that happen that they're doing well and things that they're struggling with, which is what that report's going to lay out as well. And so I'm hoping with that work, we hope that people will want to give. And we've seen that just in the last 4 months, since August, we launched this campaign. We've raised a couple $100,000. So I think there's people who want to support us. But it's important to get out there and publicize that. We're launching a new website next week to kind of help us along that route. There's a question over here. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm interested in a couple, well, so much, but there's only so much time. So in my context, Boston, we're probably the largest Friends organization in terms of spatially supporting the most parks, but there's no citywide group. What is your ecosystem like? Are you the main citywide park organization, or is there another one? I'm fascinated by, and this is the first time we've sued anyone, hopefully the last, and I'm interested to know how, because there's been some feelings of punitive, like city or people don't want to work with you once you do that. So how do you navigate that? I mean, yeah.
Yeah, that might be a longer conversation, which I'm happy to talk with you afterwards. Your first question, there's another organization in the city called the Park Foundation. They're similar. Their budget's the same size of ours. And they are not an advocacy organization. They help to raise money to do programs in the parks. There's been a history where they've been challenged because the park district thinks that they should be raising money for the park district. But that's not their goal. They've also started to we're a fiscal agent of 22 PACs, and they're also fiscal agents of some other PACs. So we coordinate with them. They're different. We are seen as more of that advocacy group. To go to your second question, I think that we are definitely seen as an organization, like I said before, especially with the Lucas fight, that people were like, yes, your organization is holding power accountable. You're doing the fight that no one else will do. And there were a lot of people that were very upset in the city about what Friends of the Parks did, to the point where board members got death threats. And it was real. The former executive director had to change her route to work every day. And so, that is the hard work of, being an activist. And right now in Chicago, that is kind of our world, unfortunately, with everything that's going on with Dice. The same thing's happening right now with the Cantons in the park is another issue. So how do we support unhoused people in our parks while parks are not made to be permanent housing? And we've put some statements out both on the immigration issue as well as on the housing issue. And I have received support, and I've also received some very, negative emails, borderline to not so borderline racism. And that's just kind of, I think goes with the territory. The way I take that is that if we are upsetting people, then we must be doing some of the right things. And it was nice.
Thanks, Brian. Following up on Karen's question, how do you engage the legal services that you need to bring all these lawsuits? How does that happen?
Yeah, so we're fortunate we've got a lot of really great legal volunteers. So we don't have a lawyer on staff yet. When that number becomes 5 million, well, no. But we have a group of lawyers. So right now, for example, there is a lakefront protection ordinance that exists in the city of Chicago that we know needs to be strengthened. So we are continuing to fight for issues on our lakefront that was set up by the city, by our founders to be this open, accessible place. If you've been to Chicago, one of the great things about Chicago is our lakefront. And there are continually, opportunities for privatization efforts. Lucas, the Bears, but there's others. And when we, and what says that, a hotel doesn't want to build on Montrose Beach or Rainbow Beach where we're bring the kids out in the future. And so we are continually working with the legal community to get pro bono support and also just get legal support. We did receive a good, amount of money last year from a local foundation to be prepared